exact same thing. Like the countenance. Before I forget, I have to push record. Before,
Okay.
like when she sees people present, it's like there's a light. It's hard to describe, but people have this like aliveness to them. I'm like, yep, that's what it is.
That's what they're trying to stop us from doing, you
That's
know?
right. That's right. Absolutely, doing everything they can. Um, okay, Boynton.
Boynton Beach.
Say it one more time.
Boynton Beach.
Boynton Beach. Okay, okay.
Boynton. I know. I'm not from there. I'm from Miami, but that's just where I worked. So
Gotcha. What do the locals call it?
Boynton,
Boynton. Cool.
B-town. Depends on
Yeah.
what side of town, you know.
Nice. Nice. Awesome. So, okay, so I will have, I can't remember how backed out we are for release. I think we're into early May. But
Okay.
I'll have all of this done, edited, processed, all the notes, all the social media stuff, all of that will be done today. And I'll send
Okay.
it over to you today. There's
Okay.
no obligation for any of it, but when you get it, you can do whatever you like with it. If you want to share it with your friends and family or the group, or whatever, if you want to use it for your own use for marketing of some kind or
Yeah.
anything, you don't feel like you've got to wait for our release. You can use it, share it, whatever. We don't, no obligation whatsoever, but just no full permission to do whatever. And then yeah, we don't have bosses or sponsors or anything, so you can say whatever, talk about
Right.
whatever.
Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, I have the Cops and Campers event in late June, so you mentioning it in May might
Yep.
be another springboard for it too. But I
Yep.
think we're gonna be sold out here pretty soon. So
That's great.
another year. I know I'm starting to get a lot of feedback. Yeah, but we'll talk about it anyway. So I don't want to.
Do you think I mean, would it be worth mentioning and talking about?
Yeah, I mean, my whole goal is obviously, some of the studies I read when I was sick was, police officers, probably a whole bunch of other first responder types, fighter pilots, stuff like that. They die so much earlier than the average person, and the average guy is already dying too early. So you take 12 years off of that for a cop. And the guy's only spending his pension for maybe 6 to 10 years. And I started scratching my head. I'm like, man, that's crazy. And then you start looking into it, and the metabolically sick from the stress, and you're overweight, diet sucks. And then, the stress is the impact. They don't even realize the stress of it. And obviously PTSD and what that does to you overall. And through that whole 20 to 30 year career, how it just beats you down, man. You come out of it sick and broken.
Oh my God. That's crazy. That's crazy. Well, I mean, if nothing else, like small reward, but on my behalf, thank you for everything that you've done. It really is a special person that can do what you did.
Well, got it from my mom, So.
Yes, you did. You sure did. You sure did. It's in the blood. Awesome. Okay, so the music will play on my end for about 30 seconds. I'll unmute myself. I'll get you introduced. I'll unmute you. We'll just chat. Do you have any hard stops or anything?
Hard stops?
Hard stops, like hour.
Oh.
You're good for about an hour.
Oh yeah, I'm good, man.
Yeah, cool. We'll do that, and then at the end, it'll kind of be the same thing. You'll say your last thing. I'll say my last thing. It'll just be quiet on the line as I ramp up the music and turn it down, and then yeah, we'll be done.
Okay,
so,
cool.
Cool.
Are you sitting on the floor?
You're
sitting on the floor? Cool. No, I love it. It's laid back. I love it. So
in front of my ring light and cycle gear, like I found it to be one of the kind of softest areas of the house that's good for recording. So
I had to do that in my trailer, like in the backdrop. I had to hang something, put some lights up.
Yeah,
because I'm in a little rig, man, and to make it look like a room, I put little books up and stuff. I was like, "Look at me," and it's all fake.
That's great.
So, all right, man, I'm ready.
I love that. Okay, so that's good. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Boundless Body Radio. I'm your host, Casey Ruff, and today we have another amazing guest to introduce to you now. Eric Reynolds, also known online as Keto 5-0, is a 53-year-old retired wounded police veteran. Eric is also a licensed sport nutritionist and personal trainer, and is a social media influencer and film producer. Eric was an active police officer for the Boynton Beach Police Department in South Florida. He went through a major change in life when he was diagnosed with heart disease at the age of 48. And was told he needed to be on prescription pills and needed stents. He was battling metabolic disease. He was 75 pounds overweight, and he was suffering PTSD from a law enforcement incident that happened earlier in his career. In 2018, he discovered the ketogenic way of eating and ended up losing 50 pounds in 6 months and 75 pounds overall after adjusting to the carnivore way of eating. Eric even saw his symptoms of PTSD get more manageable after feeding his brain clean, ketogenic, and carnivore food. He has reversed his heart disease and has never taken any pharmaceuticals. In 2020, Eric started the Keto 5 company with the goal of helping first responders with proper nutrition and exercise while traveling throughout the country and homeschooling his family. Eric Reynolds, what an absolute honor it is to welcome you to Boundless Body Radio.
What's up, Casey? Nice to meet you finally, brother.
It's nice to meet you too. It is such a joy to have you on. We've got some great mutual friends. Big shout out to Buzz and Bruce. You have done some cool stuff in your life, man. You're running multiple companies. You're doing all kinds of exciting things. You're traveling around the country. This is a totally fair question. Where in the world are you right now?
Right now, I'm in a town called Lenore, North Carolina, near Hickory, Blowing Rock, Boone, North Carolina, that kind of area.
Nice. I've been to North Carolina before. It is absolutely beautiful. You can tell why North Carolina University uses that color blue. That sky there is very unique.
Yeah, and it's so therapeutic, especially when you're outside in nature. And that's one of the things we discovered traveling the country, how beneficial it is. And you kind of get lost in it when you're in that world of working 9 to 5 and raising kids. And until you step out for a long period of time, you can't really feel the difference it really makes in your life until you do it.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. I love that. Okay, we're going to start out this podcast episode with a very hard-hitting, controversial question. Barbecue. You've been all over the South. Now you're in North Carolina. Who does the best barbecue?
Ooh, well, in fairness, I haven't been to Texas yet.
Okay.
So I would say they're probably going to be up there. But right now, man, you're putting me on the spot because I don't do a lot of barbecue because of the sauce. I might just do the straight up plain pork or beef or something like that. But I'm such a carnivore, man. I love it all. But I would say definitely Tennessee. And then I got some buddies in Georgia that can really, get
There we
busy
go.
on a grill, man.
There we go. Yeah, I'm going to be in Austin this next week for KetoCon at the time of this recording, so I can report back on how Austin barbecue is. I use an Austin recipe for my brisket every week, and it comes out great. But I can tell you, like in Atlanta, Georgia, you see these like shacks that are they look like they're barely standing up, and they've got all the fancy cars in the parking lot. Like those are the places you want to go. That is amazing barbecue. So Georgia's a good answer.
Yeah, thanks. Woo, passed it.
I told you this was going to be controversial, really hard hitting. Law enforcement, man. This is an interesting topic. This has been in your blood. Literally, your mom was in law enforcement. Was this something that you always knew that you wanted to do as a kid?
Not really. I found myself kind of being like the neighborhood policeman, watchman sometimes, separating fights or squabbles and stuff like that. I did safety patrol, and then some varsity patrol in high school where we got to not skip class, but leave class and kind of walk the parking lots and make sure there's no break-ins. And it was kind of I don't know, I was always a guy that would get involved with situations. And my mom being a cop, yeah, I was always looking out for the eye of the vato, as they say, looking for shenanigans all the time. And, I did retail security before I was a cop, catching shoplifters and employee theft. So I really got ingrained in it. Not really wanting to be a cop, but was thinking more of federal agencies and stuff like that. And then opportunity came in Boynton Beach, Florida, when I kept chasing shoplifters for miles because I wouldn't let them get away. And the cops were like, dude, you got to come join us. You get a Batman belt, you get all these cool toys, and you get a pension. And the pension kind of sat in my head like, wow, private sector, I can, be fired the next day. But in, the public sector, at least with a pension and being in the police department, I had protection from, we had our own, PVA and FOP and stuff. So I was like, man, 20 years and out. And that's what I decided to do. I did my 20 years and got out before, not unscathed, but I got out, with my life, my kids, my family, and, the ability to be able to travel the country and, see this beautiful world that we got. It's amazing out there.
That's amazing. It seems like if I were to time travel back 5 years and explain to past you what you're doing today, you'd be like, what the hell are you talking about?
I know. I look back, I did a little small short film called Cops and Cabins, where they took 8 of us into the mountains of Blue Ridge, Georgia. It was kind of the beginning of my Cops and Campers retreat program, but that's what planted the seed. And 8 of us there didn't know each other. We all had come from different environments as cops. And after that weekend, those guys were like friends for life. The stories we heard, the similarities, the different, like every day there'd be a question of the day, and it'd be the most intense day you had as a cop, and there'd be 8 different stories, or it'd be most embarrassing, and it was so therapeutic and it was such a fun time. But looking back at that video, I was 245 pounds. I was battling my weight and I was depressed, and my symptoms of PTSD were definitely heightened, and I was entering this world of where I was so hyper vigilant that I didn't go out much. I was drinking and eating the wrong foods, and stress, and I could see it in that documentary film. I could see myself, and I'm like, man, I don't like the way I look. And then happened to be playing basketball with a buddy that lost 50 pounds. About, he was telling me about this ketogenic way of eating. I had no clue what the heck it was. I thought it was like some CrossFit workout or something. And he's like, nah, man, you burn fat, and you burn the carbs that you already got stored. And I was like, what? And I read up on it and it made sense. Decided to try it, and I fasted. I tried to have an eating window between 6 to 8 hours. That's how I started off. And man, the weight started just coming off. It was amazing. No one ever told me about it. I remember being like really annoyed, like all through my teenage years. I had to battle my weight because they're force feeding that high fructose corn syrup that they introduced in the 80s to me. I was that kid, thin at 10, obese at 20. That 10-year period, they poisoned me, and I started really taking it personal. And I started really, start reading up on it, following doctors, reading like Nina Teicholz's book, Big Fat Surprise. And it's like, what? And then being the cop guy, I started taking it like they're a drug cartel, which they are. And, finding out that tobacco companies took control of our food, and you start seeing it. And it's like, man, we got to go after these guys, and, I don't have the power right now, but I have influence, and I can help fellow cops and other people with the influence of, hey, man, you got to get off the processed food, get off the seed oils, cholesterol's okay, all the myths that they've been, all that propaganda they've been pushing out. So yeah, it kind of just opened my eyes, and it motivated me in a way that I never thought I'd have motivation later in my life like this.
Yeah, and it should make you angry. It is a scam, and it is a drug cartel that they're literally running the same play with sugar that they were doing with cigarettes. It's no different. It's exactly the same.
Yeah, and they know it's killing people. That's what,
Yeah.
and they don't care. So all those stockholders and everybody that's in their big, yachts and their big houses, well, guess what? They're contributing too, because they're living off of us being sick and the profits from that.
Yep.
So I've seen the big picture. I saw it on a small level with dirty doctors, with the pill mills, with the opiate crisis in the 2000s. I saw it. I saw them blatantly doing this. And so I was never a big pharma guy to believe, anyways, I was always very suspicious. And I know they do a lot of good, but there's a lot of investments and a lot of money to be made in that world. And it's made it evil. And they've got control of our government and policies right now.
Yeah. No, that's crazy. I did want to ask you about that, actually. It's funny you brought that up. You were actually, as part of what you were doing as a police officer, you were finding people who were overprescribing opioids at the time.
Yeah, we would have these different investigations. You throw a bunch of different cops or different agencies, you all get to share in the revenue of the seizures and the money. So there is a financial investment for departments. And you're finding out the drugs, gives you more of a reach throughout the county or jurisdiction if you bring in DEA or somebody like that. Now you got a whole spectrum of South Florida. And, my mom being involved in that world, I saw it when I was younger. I knew how the government worked. Everyone's getting a cut. And the big so-called war on drugs. Yeah, give me a break. It's profit for drugs. That's all it's been.
Wow, that's crazy. So I noticed something very similar with all of the police officers that I know, as far as like a kind of arc in the career, where you get into law enforcement for the very best reasons. Could be like a medical doctor, and you're jazzed. It's excited. It's fun. Every day is a little different and surprising. And like from, I don't know, maybe first 5 or 7 years, like things are really great and you're doing what you love and you're helping people. And then it just kind of seems to like drag on a little bit, or things start to kind of add up, or like the daily stress that you mentioned, maybe not like a one big event, but certain like day-to-day stuff just gets a little bit tedious. And then it seems like people are just like stumbling to the line of like suffering through to get to that pension. Is that what you've experienced in your career?
Yeah, I mean, when I was a little lucky. I was in my early 30s when I finally got sworn in. So I had about 10 years of, after college, go Florida State, going out there and working in the working world and managing people. So I was a little more seasoned. So when I got into it, it was a job that I had to focus on. So I was a little bit not gung-ho crazy, but I didn't want to get indicted. I didn't want to go to jail. I didn't want to shoot somebody for the wrong reason, because everywhere you go in that uniform, everyone's watching all day long. That was before cameras. Everybody is watching how you handled yourself, how you parked your car. Are you going to get out of your car and, drop your gun or do something stupid? Like, you're always under that magnifying glass for your whole career. And then what starts to happen within your own department? Now you're under a magnifying glass, because are you trying to get promoted? Are you in charge of people? Are you trying to do certain things that are against the agenda of the police department? It becomes a lot more political over time. And then you realize you're really not making that much of a difference, with this active arresting everybody all the time because another guy fills that spot. One of the best things I ever did was a community outreach program, bicycle units. We got into neighborhoods. We monitored juveniles that were on probation for first-time offenses. And we made sure they were following curfews, going to classes. We talked to teachers, talked to their parents. We really stayed on top of them like a big brother of a neighborhood. You don't save them all, but you know what? We saved a lot of them. But they pulled all that back, and now the public doesn't have, the same experience or interaction with the cops like we used to. And the cops are scared to death because everything you see in the academy is you're going to get killed within the first 5 years of your career. So that's why you come out all like freaking Jack. Let me see your hands. Don't you move, blah, blah, blah. I'm the boss. You get overpowered with it. And then near the end, most cops are usually shot around year 10 to year 12, and that's when I got in my shooting. You get a little bit lackadaisical, I think, at times. It's been, you've been doing the grind for 10 years. Now, if you go to specialty units, detective, SWAT, there's all kinds of things you can do to keep it going. But your day-to-day patrol that's out there with the public, yeah, it beats you down. You see the dregs of society, you see the sadness, and it wears you out. And by the time 20 years come, you can't wait to get out, and you're struggling. You're probably divorced, because most of us end up getting at least one marriage under our belt. So you're supporting two families, whether it's anybody's fault or not, it's just the circumstances. So the stress of them working extra details and make up that time, or money, and I got to put away 200 grand to live off of because health insurance is going to cost me $2,500 a month. And I'm like, dude, if you eat right and I got doctors that'll see you and not rip you off and try to just push pills down your throat. There's another way to go with this, and you don't need that $2,500. And you want to do catastrophic or something, that's your own call. But so many guys are programmed like that. Oh, I got to cover my insurance, or I got to get another job. I go, you just did 30 years and now you're going to try and get another cop job? Are you crazy?
Yeah.
But it's a sickness, and unfortunately for them. And yeah, usually by the end, they're crawling to get out of there, and they're usually, like we were saying, metabolically sick and they're broken.
And then the stats that you hear about the lifespan during that time when you're getting pension, is that true? What I've heard about first responders, police officers, military, where it's such a shortened life expectancy after they get out?
Yeah, it's like 10 to 12 years afterwards.
Wow.
And so we had a cop that retired with he had a U.S. Coast Guard pension. He had our Boynton pension, and then he had one from school board. He went and did 6 years there. The guy died 4 years later. Had 3 pensions sitting there. Just dead. It's just, was it worth it? And he wasn't in bad shape. I know he's a classic of them over prescribing him probably heart medication, cholesterol medicine, and probably make him a diabetic. And in the end, they killed him, but it'll never go down like that. It'll be marked down as heart disease, classic, oh, that's the American disease, and it's a lot.
Sucks. Yeah, it sucks. It sucks. That's so unfortunate that the people that are serving us don't get to really enjoy the fruits of their labors afterwards. It's really a shame. The classic definition is a big change that happens in a short amount of time, but I think also trauma adds up over the length of a career. And I don't think a lot of people think about, like, what would it be like to be a police officer when everybody is watching you all the time? We're expecting the worst. You're going to pull me over for something, or like our guards are up when you guys are out in the community trying to serve. You're trying to ride your bikes around and help kids and teachers and all this stuff. But that kind of like day-to-day stress must be just a bag of bricks to drag around.
Yeah, I mean, even every time you get to a red light, you don't even want to be window to window. And that's in case people wonder why we kind of sit back or forward, or we don't want you to have a dead shot on us, but that's just programmed into us.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's, especially when you do get into a really big critical incident and you realize, wow, how precious your life is and how close, especially me, I came to dying. It really puts things in perspectives. And then you're even more jacked up the rest of your career after something like that, because now you're anticipating. You're like, all
Yeah.
right, they tried to get me once, they ain't gonna let it happen again, but that affects you. And what it
Yeah.
did with me is that it attacked my central nervous system. And it was just really hard for me to deal with on a day-to-day basis because I just couldn't stop it. It was just like constantly worried about, wife and kids going to the store. I'll go with you. You stay home. And then, you start going down these dark roads. I wasn't heavily suicidal after my incident. It was more like survivor's guilt. And then the stress of, is it going to happen again? Am I going to be convicted this time? Because it's all over the news. Cop messed up, cop messed up. You don't hear the thousands of times cops are doing the right thing, so, but we know that getting into it. So that's part of the stress of the job already without being in an incident, so
Right.
yeah. And then our diets, crap along the way,
Yeah.
I wish
Yeah.
I knew to fast my whole shift back in the day.
Oh, it would be amazing.
I would have gone for steak and eggs at the end of it. We would have had like shift parties, then high five and all, looking jacked.
Yeah, totally focused and attentive and good mood, but able to make quick decisions. Being carnivore means, in my opinion, like you're steady and you're good and you're happy, but it doesn't mean that you're like a pushover. You're still savage, but you're just on that line of just like performance. You're like a lion on the hunt.
Yeah, exactly. You're to be a carnivore, you're going to look like a carnivore and you act like a carnivore.
That's
And
right.
you're going to be thinking like one, and you're going to be like, all right, I'm still in control. And if you start to get a little bit hangry, you can, supplement that with something, whether it's, coffee, or you can go ahead and eat a little beef jerky or something till you get to that steak and eggs.
Yep, that's right. I love that. Well, you have mentioned the incident. I asked you offline if it would be okay for us to discuss. I know this is a heavy thing and difficult. You responded that this is, therapeutic for you to share, and
Yeah.
again, probably challenging to revisit. But I wonder if you can take us through what happened on that day.
Well, it was a typical work shift day, and you hear this so much in police work, but it was a bank robbery in another city, and they had a bolo, be on the lookout, and we get them all the times. It's not always a bank robber; it could be a purse snatching, or it could be anything. And most of the time, you don't find the car. It's like a blue car, and you're like, okay, we're in South Florida. There's millions of cars. But this particular day, they said it was a red car with a white top, which is kind of unique. All right, and then it came out as a Crown Vic. I'm like, all right, that narrows the numbers down a little bit. And then I saw it come over the bridge from the beach area, because we're in a beach community type, but we're connected to US 1 and I-95. So we are a big little city kind of. And it was a Lincoln Town car. It wasn't a Crown Vic, but it was the same description of the male that robbed the bank with a gun. And it just kind of felt familiar. So I ended up getting behind him, and he stops. I didn't light him up. And there was a little pause there where we were waiting. I'm waiting on backup, going, this guy's just stopping in the road. I don't know why. And it was eerie, man, because looking back, I think he would have tried to shoot me right then. But I didn't approach the car. I waited for backup. I slowed things down. And all of a sudden he took off. We were in a little car chase. About 2 miles, maybe. He clipped some cars, and then all of a sudden he crashed. And I thought I was going to get out and run. So when I jumped out, I'm the first car behind him. I mean, my video is on YouTube. It's available if people want to actually feel the adrenaline. And it's both videos. The other officer, the backup, Officer Monroe, and mine are on there. But what pretty much happened, he crashed. He couldn't get his door open all the way. So he puts his gun out and he starts shooting. And I see the ground firing. Now I'm like, oh shit, I'm being shot at. So I start moving to my left, firing back, Officer Monroe shooting, and then we finally both come together and we start laying rounds down on the target, which is our bank robber. And he kept moving, man. We kept shooting and shooting. We walked up to the car and I remember put about 4 to 5 rounds right into his chest from like point blank range, because he would not stop moving. He's trying to clear his gun out. He's something called a stovepipe, because he got the casing was stuck. He could get the shit out. So he just kept trying to clear it. But we just put him down. And I remember getting tapped on my shoulder. The guy, one of our SWAT guys had a big rifle. He's like, we got it, Eric, we got it. So I start backing up. I'm like, adrenaline's pumping, all of a sudden now I hear the sirens. I didn't hear them for the whole time. It was just that typical, it blocks everything else out. All your focus is that target at that point. And I look down because my foot's hurting at this point, and I see 3 holes through my left shoe from one of the bad guy bullets. And then another round hit my right leg, right through my, nicked my shin. So now I'm like, oh, I was shot. That's crazy, right? But you're still high on the adrenaline, and, they finally put me in the ambulance, ambulance. I say that right? My kids would make fun of me. And I'm sorry, paramedics took me to the hospital. And I remember asking the paramedic, because they're wrapping up my foot and it looks like the bullet didn't go in. It looked like it just went through. So I got a clear through and through shot. I mean, it's all messed up at that point, but it's still, I'm not bleeding to death or anything like that. And I asked the paramedic, I was like, hey man, how's the bad guy? He's like, he's dead. And it was like, wow, just killed somebody, dude, and damn. See, this is one of the points that comes up because you don't get in the police work to do that. It can happen. I had to get him before he got me. I mean, it's all those cliche things, but damn, dude, why don't you just give up, right? So then it starts to hit you, you're like, damn, my family. Does he have family? Did we do it right? Are we going to be now indicted? Which is crazy because the guy shot me first, right? But the mind's very powerful and it can manipulate your thinking in several different ways. So I can't believe I cried, damn it. All right. So obviously it is therapeutic. I still manage it because at different points of the story is so real. I can still feel it in my bones. And, my son was 5 months old. With my first Father's Day that weekend, my foot's up in a boot. And you start just, wonder, damn, what could have happened? And then we got honored in Washington, D.C. the next year. I made a recovery, not a full recovery, but pretty much enough to go back to work. Then we got to go out to Washington, D.C. And man, to see all those fallen officers' names being put on the wall and the candlelight vigils, it was just, talk about survivor's guilt. Oof. Like, why did I survive? Why, how come this guy didn't? He had 5 kids or something like that, And that starts to play games on you. And then, going back out there on the road and working, your stress level's so high. I really started to crush alcohol because I needed to calm myself down. And as a police officer, the only 2 things you can do is alcohol or get prescription pills, and I already have my familiar relationship with pharma. So I'm not going to be dealing with any, sedatives or anything like that. So I just use booze, and it started affecting my marriage because now I'm more irritable. I wasn't getting the proper nutrition that I needed for what I was probably going through. I didn't know it, but, and then over time I sought therapy through workers' comp, and started asking, say, I need to talk to somebody. I don't need pills, and finally got workers' comp to side with me and started, seeing a psychologist just to get it out. And he helped me, he helped me learn how to dance with it, and manage it and understand it most of all. Like, why am I feeling like this? And that just opened everything up. And then obviously discovering the keto way of eating and carnivore, man, what it did for my brain. And then obviously losing weight and the inflammation in my body just being just crushed. It was gone. And the way my mind and my spirit and everything felt after that, it was just crazy, man. That's why I always get so chatty. I want to tell people about it, like we all do. You just keep wanting to talk to people and they're like, man, this guy won't shut up, but that's what it was. It was torturous at that moment, but in the end, it saved my life indirectly. Again, that incident,
Wow. Well, thank you so very much for sharing that story. What a difficult thing to wrestle with. Your mind would race all the different scenarios. What if it had been you? Yeah, it's tough, really tough. But I really appreciate you going there. You did have a fantastic, change of health when you found the ketogenic diet. Can you remind us how it was that you found it?
It was a buddy I played basketball with.
Yeah.
Mentioned it to me, and he just said, go to ketogenic.com and read up on it. I didn't know anything about it. And I saw the recipes, like, oh, I could order this or I can make this. And then I found a couple, pork rinds became my best friend. I got off the chips, sparkling water instead of soda. I started doing all those little things, and then changing my time frame of eating. And it became very, I went from a desk job that I had at the time to where I got one of those desks that stands, and I stood up and I got a little rolling stool. And dude, I was putting like 15,000 steps a day, easy, just walking around because you're active. I was moving around, I was more with it, everything was just clicking. I didn't get that. I wasn't lethargic from sitting at a desk all day that I had before, I mean, after my shooting, I ended up in evidence for about 7 years. So that kind of became a desk job, which also I'm sure helped the belly grow a little bit, but it was a safe zone for me at that point, and it worked out and it helped me. I learned a lot at being in evidence, but yeah, definitely being sedentary, sitting down, and subs. I love subs. Who doesn't love sub, right? you can get a big ass 12-inch sub. I could eat off of it all day long, but how much bread was I stuffing away with the chips on the side? So yeah, it was an eye-opening experience, and man, what a way to eat. I enjoyed it so much too. I was like, I can't believe I'm eating lasagna that's made out of, I'm sorry, it was zucchini lasagna loaded
Yeah.
with meat and ricotta and cheese. Are you kidding me? And I could eat as much as I want. I mean, that's what I was doing. I'd eat a big old helping and I was fine. I was still losing weight. I couldn't believe it.
It's amazing. You don't have any hunger or anything. And I love your comment. Who doesn't love a sub? Somebody was asking me about my carnivore diet, and they were like, "So you don't like potatoes? You don't like rice? What? Like you don't like risotto?" It's like,
Right.
no. Let me tell you, I love those foods. I can't have them. I get addicted to carbohydrates. I can't have them. It's not that I don't love them. I love them. That's the problem.
Yeah, especially the bad ones. I mean, they're designed like that. They're supposed to make you love it,
Yeah,
So yeah, but I understood like I can have chicken wings and ribeyes, and I was like, what? This is awesome, And then
so
all of a
great.
sudden, the whole push against freaking meat and everything came out, and I'm like, wait a minute, I just lost almost 80 pounds doing it this way. Now you're telling me that way's wrong? I'm like, get out of here.
They're doubling down. They're totally
Yeah,
doubling down.
totally.
They know what's going on. They know too many people like you are out there, and you're excited, like you said, and sharing your message that they can't have that, dude.
No. Yeah, I suffered in the beginning posting stuff, and all of a sudden, nothing. I got blocked. I was like, what? I'm
Yeah,
trying to
it's
help
weird.
people. Yeah, I
Yep,
know. We've all
it's
been
weird.
there.
Yep, it's weird out there. So, okay, so how long were you mostly ketogenic then?
I did it for about a year and a half, and I stayed
Okay.
around. I went from 245 to about 204 to 200. I remember going to my 30th class reunion, and it was like I felt freaking like a rock star, dude. The way I felt, the way I looked. Not that it's a show me thing, but you notice how everyone else has aged, and let's face it, most of them are metabolically sick. I can tell. They're all in their 50s, and anyways, it was just I was loving it, and I had cops coming up to me, other co-workers, whether it's record clerks or other agencies, were like, "How'd you lose 50 pounds, Eric?" And I started talking to them, and I started a group text. I had like 10 people asking me questions, and if I didn't know it, I'd try to find it. And next thing you know, the nickname Keto 5-0 came out from one of my buddies that lost 50 pounds. He's like, Keto 5-0, if you need to lose weight, come talk to him, and it just became a running joke. And I liked the sound of it. So I went ahead and, trademarked it, start the company and all that stuff, just to, I figure most cops will know when they see my truck, they see the 5-0 and they're like, wait a minute, either he sells guns or he sells supplements or he's doing something with diet, So
Yep.
it gets my foot in the door, and we can talk shop, and they tend to trust other cops more than the regular public, and I can talk real with them, and I'm a living example. I can be like, dude, look at me. This is where I was just like you, and you can make a
It's
difference, and
so
they love
powerful.
hearing it. Yeah, and I love it. And there's other cops out there starting to do the same thing. Different it's a place in Oklahoma City, their training unit now is doing blood work on their cops, trying to get them metabolically healthy. And it's just awesome that, that's through Robert Greenwald. I think they call him Greenie. He's got some first responder organization out there really trying to attack metabolic disease from within, so it's
That's amazing. Wow, that's amazing. And then it's the right message too. Like you would think like if a police department wanted to get more healthy, they would be trying to eat more salads or something. So it's nice to have that as the focus and
you
the
know what
right information.
our city will do these free health surveys. Come get your $25 Target card. We get to take your blood and scan you for everything, and they determine how sick our city is. And then they jack up our health insurance prices because they know they're going to be paying out this much and this much. They never ever tell us, hey, you could curb your nutrition, or curb all your bad symptoms by using that Target card for steak and eggs or something. It's a blatant, they don't care about you. It's just they're giving you a gift card just like they did with the other things that they try to incentivize.
Yep, totally, totally. And I'm glad you mentioned the origin story of Keto 5-0. I love the nickname. People around the gym that I used to work at started calling me Keto Casey, and that was one thing. The Keto 5-0 is really good. I like that one.
Yeah, it was just fun. My kids, they have fun with it. They'll be just talking to kids about Keto 5. And that's another good thing my kids have actually done. They're starting to read labels now. They know about high fructose corn syrup. They know about all the processed food garbage that's in there and what's addictive, and it's really cool. And they'll talk to their friends as they eat pork rinds. The kids are eating Doritos and they're telling them, hey man, that Doritos, that stuff's fake. You might as well be eating plastic. Right. And they're like, really? And they'll go tell their mom, hey, Killian, who's outrunning everybody and climbs higher than everybody, eats, pork rinds. And I'm like, what? And then we got a new pork. I need to get a pork rind for getting sponsorship.
Yeah, you do.
I keep talking about him so much.
That's great. It's such a cool, like, proud papa moment, I would think. Like your kiddos, like teaching other kiddos about nutrition. So awesome.
Well, he's a carnivore too, but he loves like catching snakes, and then he introduces everybody how they're carnivores, and he finds lizards or mice or something, and he
That's
has his own
amazing.
he has his own class on, all right, this is when the snake eats, and this is what the snake likes to eat. So
That's awesome. So cool. Okay, so when you first started keto, you came pretty directly, it sounds like, from a standard American. You were eating chips and soda and whatever processed crap.
yeah, trying to limit it at home, of course, because we had a young kid that was he was sensitive to like gluten and lactose intolerant and stuff like that. But he was breastfed for 3 years. But after that, we had a hard time trying to figure out what to feed him without having a reaction, because he was so pure that anything that wasn't like a foreign substance, he would show a reaction, whether it's breaking out on his face or his butt or whatever was going on. And we really learned a lot about him. And then you start looking at yourself like, man, that's how my wife found out she had a sensitivity to gluten. She never knew for 37 years until we found out our kid was sensitive. Took
Wow.
gluten out. She stopped being bloated at night. All the common, stories you hear from women later in the day. Oh, I'm so bloated. It's because you're eating that garbage, just swelling your stomach and intestines up. So anyways, we learned a lot through my kid. And that really opened our eyes. We saw how he acted on like going to a pizza party. The freaking 2 days it took that kid to get off the high. Right.
Wow.
And now we're the family that comes with our own almond flour cupcake. Everyone else is eating their cake, and our kid's eating his little almond flour. And you know what? Nobody cares except the parent. Our kids and the other kids don't give a shit. They don't care. They're having fun. They're at the party, right? They don't care. My kid's eating a sandwich and they're in pizza. They don't care. But I hear other parents, ooh, I could never do that. You're going to feed your kid poison and just sit there? I don't know.
Yeah. They're just
So,
triggered. Yeah, they're just triggered. Sucks. So okay, so going keto from there, I would imagine a lot of benefits. You obviously lost a bunch of weight. Keto's amazing. It's a wonderful way to live. I think if somebody lived there for a long time, they would be really happy. They are allowed some carbohydrates to still be in a ketogenic state. There's a lot of different foods you can have. It's really good. But I've noticed that once you get there, you fix some things, but there's other things that linger. For you, what other things were kind of lingering at the time?
When I still had a belly, that was kind of still a self-conscious thing for me growing up with a stomach my whole life, never feeling comfortable going to the beach, taking off the shirt like with everybody else. I was never obese, but I never felt comfortable. It was just, I saw the spare tire there, I didn't know how to shake it. That always bothered me. I had some skin rashes once in a while, that would show itself. My sleep was affected. All these little things started healing themselves. But when I went carnivore, that was it, man. It was like I was just eating the vegetables out of guilt. And then once I started reading up, like obviously Dr. Ken Berry, Dr. Paul Saladino, started reading more about the carnivore diet, and then Sean Baker, and then I just dove in that world, and I eliminated pretty much all the cauliflower I was eating, the almond flour, any broccoli, I just ditched greens. And I stuck to the, animal-based products, man. And I lost another 25 pounds in like 6 weeks. My stomach bio, did go through a change, everything's kind of changing there. I couldn't trust the fart there for a while, I had to make sure I was, but after about a week or two, my body just was rocking and rolling, dude. I couldn't believe it. I saw abs for the first time. I'm still going through, I still have some saggy skin from losing 75 pounds, that is there, but man, I can't believe I got abs. I keep once in a while I'm looking down like I can't believe them. My whole life I knew they were there, just covered with fat, but still, until you get to that point, getting to 180 pounds at 50, I was 50 then, was crazy, especially since I hadn't seen that weight since 8th grade. I was
Amazing.
I was like 14 to 15 years old. I was like, I hadn't seen that weight ever. It's crazy.
And does anybody believe your age now? When you tell somebody how old you are, does anybody believe?
Nah, especially in, a lot of campgrounds we go to, a lot of retired people there, and they're already kind of old and already metabolically sick, but they're like, you're just a kid, I go, I'm 53, man. I've already served like 2 life sentences in life, from 2 different things. My mom being a cop, my parents being married 8 times between them. I mean, the kind of different places I've gone. I mean, it's just a whole nother chapter. So I'm lucky to be here. So I'm at the party now. I understand nutrition, I understand how to help people, and that's been my goal. And then trying to retire and just stay off the radar, I keep getting in stuff once in a while that pops up and gets me right back out there. So that's how the whole cops and campers thing got started. So, but yeah, we're living the dream, man. This carnivore keto on the road is great. We go to different farms, we help out. I've butchered animal. I never butchered anything in my life except a bank robber. Haha, that's a joke. But the being on a farm with hogs and then a bull that escaped that we had to put down, and to see it from start to finish, wow. My kids got to see it. We're really getting understanding this farming lifestyle, and I think that's where we're going to end up having to go, just for to protect ourselves.
That's amazing. So that's something that I want to do. I want to be a responsible carnivore, and I want to take an animal or butcher an animal or something. And at the same time, I really don't want to do it at all. And yeah, that experience, tell us about that experience of butchering an animal.
Well, the first thing was the pig we did. I had to chase it, and it was about a 200-pound pig. And I'm chasing it around in this little pig pen, and I finally got it, roped up, and it's squealing, man. And people are gonna hate it, but anyways, you do the job and let it pretty much bleed out, and then boom, we shaved it, we gutted it, and then it's just a piece of meat, man. And it's just like, wow, that thing was just running around like an hour ago, and just shows you like we're just nothing but a piece of meat. But you get to see the insides. It's very interesting. You're like, wow, look at all that. My kid got to see it. But every day we pass the pig pen, my son would say, "Dad, I can still hear the pigs squealing." And I can go, "Me too, son. Me too." It's
Yeah.
just, but you get used to it and you understand, it's part of life for us. What are you going to do? Not, slaughter the animal. I mean, at least you're in control of it,
Right. The pig
and
has a wonderful life, and one bad moment. I mean, the way pig agriculture should be is these wonderful pigs are super smart too, aren't they?
yeah, I want a little Keto 5 pig to walk around the campground with. I think it'd be
There we go.
hysterical. You got a retired cop walking around with like Porky the pig or something.
That would be amazing. Didn't Homer Simpson have a fake pig in like the Simpsons movie or something?
Yeah, he did, but I don't remember that. Oh, I should name it that same name. That'd be good.
Spider pig, spider pig.
Something.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And now, like when people give me meat that they've raised themselves, there is a different feeling, different taste, a different spirituality. I think that would be one step further if you were the one taking the animal. Could you feel that? Could you kind of, I don't know if taste is the right word, but can you feel that when you eat that meat that you've taken yourself?
Yeah, I mean, hunters can relate. They spend the time and effort in the killing an animal, and then you eat the animal. From head, tail to nose to tail, and there is something different with it. It is more spiritual. You can almost see how like Native Indians and other tribes, would say a prayer or something to to have that meal, because it is precious, and it's not easy,
Yeah.
and we just go to the store and you're buying this meat that they inject with dye. And they're like, yeah, it's 90-10. It's great for you, and you're like, nah, it's not so good. I don't think I'm going to go with the 90-10, so.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Wow, that's super interesting. Okay, so the idea of leaving a place where you're rooted, you've got a house, to then going on the road. Whose idea was this, and what was the plan?
Well, the wife, she's all about those tiny house shows, tree house shows. And I thought she was crazy. And this crazy lady, who did I marry? And, you know, it was a crazy series of events. I found a brother in 2019 through DNA. He was a cop in Orlando, 2 hours away. A brother my whole family never knew about. My dad I guess, had a child in the 1960s, late 1960s, he didn't know about. Anyways, we found each other. And it was crazy. We were on TV shows and trying to be auditioned for different things because we kind of went viral for a moment. And he'd been camping for 10 years. And my wife had been trying to get me to get a camper. Let's go camping. He goes, come on, let's rent one. I go, you can rent one? He's like, yeah, there's sites that they'll drive it up for you. You just get out like a hotel. They'll give you the key, show you how things work, and they'll even take it away, bring it back. I was like, what? So I rented a camper with my brother that I never knew. And that started it off. I'm like, well, here's my big brother that I never knew that's been camping. And now he's introducing me to this world. So it was my wife, him, and then once we camped, we went to St. Augustine Beach, and to walk outside and be right there at the Atlantic Ocean, walking on the beach within 20 steps. And then everything you have is in a little camper. You really realize how much you really need versus what you don't need with wants and needs, and all that stuff, that junk. George Carlin does a big thing about all this stuff you have, and then you got to put stuff in storage, and then, it's just stuff, stuff, stuff. And he's right. You don't need all that. All I need was what's in the trailer. Yeah, I could use a little more. I'm not gonna lie. Trailer life is small, but it's everything I need is in that trailer, man, in my truck. And it's
Yeah.
crazy to think like that. And then you just start driving around to different spots across the country. And, we homeschool my kids. So everything's a learning opportunity. We saw 5 Great Lakes in 2021. We swam in them. We tasted them. We had rocks. We learned about them. I'm learning with my kids right next to them. We're all reading the same stuff together about the shipwrecks and all these stories I never knew. Being a Miami kid, all I knew was the Gulf and the Atlantic, but the sea, fresh water like that. It was just, and then all the different forts from Niagara Falls to, we went up all the way up to Marquette, Michigan, and just, wow, there's so much to see out there. I mean, we did in 3 years would have taken me a lifetime to do, and we're going to continue to do it. It's just amazing. And I don't think enough people get out there when you don't have to go back. When you don't have to go back, it's a crazy mindset.
That's wild. That's wild. Dude, if you'd have asked me before the pandemic what I thought about homeschooling, I would have been like, absolutely not. That sounds like a terrible idea. The kids, they don't become social. They don't really learn like
Yeah.
the actual curriculum they're gonna need to like be a lawyer. Dude, I would homeschool my kids in a second. That sounds so vastly much better than sending a kid to school. What have you noticed in them compared to other kids who are maybe going to school in a more standard way?
Well, my wife and I, we call like public school kids PSKs because there's a different vibe with them. And I had my kid in public school. I went to public school. I'm not coming from a homeschool family. Actually, I was totally like, no way we're going to homeschool, because I thought they were the weirdo kids, that was the stereotype. And, we went to a homeschool meeting for Palm Beach County down there in West Palm Beach. And I started talking to these kids and these parents, and it was just an amazing experience. And these kids, one kid was already doing college math, and they're like, yeah, we don't stop him from doing math. We just let him go. We don't like cloud him with all these other subjects. I mean, you have your basic, your math, reading, and English, that type of arithmetic, but you don't fill it up with all this unnecessary crap. Let him just keep riding the math wave. That's his path. Well, it could be musicians. It could be, writing, or it could be filming. Like my son loves doing like stop motion stuff, and that's what his passion is. And I think we get, you think your kid's going to follow some direct route in school, he's going to go, they're not really allowed to be open and do what they want to do. And then since 6 hours, and then you come home at 4 o'clock and expect to be a parent till 8 o'clock. I mean, it was a whole thing that was going on, and we pulled them out. And yeah, I didn't want to be a teacher. That was the whole thing. I didn't want to sit there and be on the chalkboard. Hey, this is A plus B equals C. But it's not like that. Man, we maybe do 1 hour a day of some type of learning. He reads on his own. He loves reading. We never pushed it. That's another thing I think we do. We push reading on our boys too soon when they're not ready. And the girls usually are ready, but the boys are always behind because we're little warriors. And we need to be out there running around, building our coordination, building our toughness up, and learning how to hunt. And not that girls can't do that too. They should be doing it with us. But you know what I'm saying? It's just like my son had so much energy that being locked in school for 6 hours was not healthy for him, and it hurt his learning. The minute we pull him out, put on a little schedule, and let him, like right now, he's playing with 10 kids in the trailer in our campground. They're all homeschool. They're coming out. They got their bags. They know how to start fires. They can chop wood and build little forts, and they're all 9 to 11 years old. And it's fun, but it's crazy. But this is what the youth should be doing, not sitting in a box learning, stuff that's not going to help them in the future. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And in school, everything is siloed, right? Math is math. Chemistry is chemistry. History is history. And we think of these things as totally separate things. And like when you're forced to, you don't give a shit about any of it. And I've learned that like the things that I get passionate about, get interested in, like, 10 years ago, I learned about home brewing. I don't do that anymore, but home brewing taught me to love chemistry now because that's part of it, and engineering and problem solving. And I'm learning these things because I'm interested in it. Recently, I got into Formula One racing, and now I know about aerodynamics and all these cool things that I didn't know before because it's an engaging topic. And now I'm learning just for the joy of learning. And why I know why we don't do it more because it's the system, but I wish more people be aware of how cool homeschooling is, not only for the kids, but the parents also, it sounds like.
Yeah, and the parents get together, like especially in a lot of the campgrounds we go to, there's other working homeschool families that are working mobile. One of the parents is working, and we'll see each other around. And you start to build this little network, and it doesn't have to be religious based. Some of it is, some of it isn't, but it's just a network of good people on this like-minded. But you know what? A lot of them are eating like trash. And that's where we kind of try to teach them a little bit and say, hey, look at us. This is how you can help your kids further their development. Because a lot of them are hangry, or they're having emotional up and down things because they're not being fed proper nutrition. So that kind of, we get into these long conversations with people, just trying to help them. Hey, you should try this, try that. You know, our kid's immune system's really good, but yeah, when he gets sick, you know, the wife will do more garlic, and she does all kinds of her own little herbs and remedies that Rockefeller would say it's quackery. Oh yeah, because you can't profit from it because you can't patent it, right? We all know that. So anyways, we start going down those roads with people, and it's really cool. It's a really cool community, and they all want the same thing for their kids, to have an unbiased education and learn how different skills and learn about nature, and, you know, learn how to problem solve on their own, not always being told how to do it. And this way is the only way. You know, a lot more creativity I see in these parks.
Very much how we evolved as hunter-gatherers. We'd have a group of people, and it wasn't even important to know like who the father of the child was. It was just there were kids, and if one's crying, you pick it up and comfort it. And maybe one person knew more about how to start fires. Maybe another person was really good at hunting deer. And like you can all kind of share the burden and have different perspectives and different ways of seeing things and teaching things. And I'm sure every time any of the kiddos come over to your place, you've got some burger patties for them, or you're throwing them some jerky or something for them to snack on. And like, it seems like a very cool community. And it also, in a way that you sitting here doing this interview for an hour, probably not feeling very stressed out that your kids are like getting into trouble somewhere, you know?
No, I mean, the worst thing I worry about them is just getting hurt in the woods like every other kid, you know, climbing trees, falling on. But as far, I'm not worried about, you know, I'm not worried about any school shootings, any pedophiles,
Yeah.
and I'm not worried about anybody that's gonna like try to warp my kids' understanding of anything. I'm
Yeah.
not worried about that at all, you know, and
Yeah.
I'm not, that's not why we did this. It's just, this is one of the benefits that's happened along this. And we're not just in the South. I mean, we go up to upstate New York. Like I was saying, we've been to Michigan, we've been through Wisconsin, and all, you know, through Tennessee. So we've had different cultures that we've interacted with. So it's, man, what a community out there. And I've made more lifelong friends in this camping world in 3 years than I did probably in 20 years as a cop.
That's
You know, it's
amazing.
just because your families are invested. And one of the things that cops make a habit of by accident is you surround yourself with other cops all the time. And it becomes this us against them mentality. No, everyone's struggling. Everyone's financially, it's a rich versus poor game right now. It's not a black versus white, you know, and unfortunately, you know, when you get out there, you start seeing everyone just hustling. Everyone's trying to just work and make ends meet. And they make food available and cheap. And you see why that we have this chronic metabolic disease through our country, man.
Yep.
I see
Yep.
it everywhere.
Me
Everywhere
too.
is fat, everywhere.
Yep.
And I can't stop it. I'm just like, I can't stop it. These poor
Yep.
people, they don't know what they've been tricked, you know? So that's where the passion comes from. I know you got it. And a lot of the, you know, our warriors that are doing this have it too. And they're angry, and it's just
Yeah.
messed up, man.
Yeah, I mean, and it's affecting mental health at very young ages. Even if kids are not becoming obese, which they certainly are. Like around me, the middle schools in my area have to have litter boxes in the bathrooms for the kids that dress up like cats, because they'll literally just poop on the floor. That's how bad the mental health is around here. That's a legit thing. I confirm it every week with my kids, and like it's not great. It's not easy for them to be in that atmosphere with all these people in social media and have their little brains not working correctly. So it sucks. It's so cool to hear about alternatives and hear different communities and how you guys are doing things. So for your companies, which came first? The Hawaii or the Hawaii 5 I knew I'd do that at least once in this episode. The Keto 5 or the Cops and Campers? Which of those companies came first?
Well, the Keto 5 that was the
Okay.
first one. And, you know, and then came Cops and Campers in 2021.
Yeah.
The
So
one
what was
that
the mission or vision, or what are you hoping to accomplish with each one? I know it's different.
Well, the Cops and Campers event stemmed from an incident about a campground that wasn't supportive of law enforcement, and it turned into something. And then we decided, hey, we only want to go to pro first responder campgrounds. And that's how Cops and Campers was started. And then we had a couple campgrounds that offered to host an event and host me and my family. And then we did that event last June, and we actually filmed a 30-minute documentary that's on YouTube. It's just a feel-good film about cops getting together, with unbiased. There's no pressure from departments. It's like, hey man, I've been doing the same thing, and I'm all the way in Oregon, and you're all the way down here, and we have the same stories. I mean, it happens in the cop culture. You can meet a guy from England, India, who's been a cop, and you got the same crazy stories and the same thing you're trying to accomplish within a career. So after I started meeting a lot of retired cops and active cops, and then seeing how beneficial it was, because I already seen it before with that Cops and Cabins documentary I did, wives coming up to me and hugging me and saying, thank you. He needed this so much. He needed something to be a part of, places to go, just to get him up to go, hey, we're going camping next June. Let's meet up with some other guys at a mini camp. Some of the friends we made, the warm-ups. We have these little mini cop camps that get together now. They just get together on a weekend. There's like 4 or 5 of them, but that's now a little club. We don't have to go to the diner, and eat all that bad food, but Cops and Campers, my goal is, Dr. Tro did say he was going to come with his wife. Already got him a camper reserved. I'm going to keep hammering him, but I got to get the cops to the party, right? Let's get him in a big, large group. We start hanging out, talking. They start osmosis, hearing my story about losing weight and getting healthy. And then maybe have some people that can talk that are real doctors, besides some cop guy that went and got his nutrition, all this stuff. They actually get a real doctor that can tell them exactly the truth, why they've been scammed, and actually take on new clients. I mean, the way that these doctors are, you can see them, virtually now. You don't have to go into the office, depending on how serious your condition is. Dr. Sivas has been seeing people in Florida, and it's just, that's what I'm trying to get. I want these cops off that train of modern medicine, and let's get back to the healthier way of eating, so they can enjoy their retirement, so they can stop the suicides that plagues our career when we retire, and the obesity and the heart attacks. You see it, all these guys, they're just dying too young, man. And then their wives are like, man, I lost my husband early. You know how many wives I meet camping that are now doing it by themselves because their husband passed away? So, it's not just cops, it's across the board, obviously. We see it in society, but yeah, that's my goal for the Cops and Campers. Get get a couple of spots across the country, start spreading the word and getting us together, and hopefully get guys like you to come out, interview some different, guys that have great stories. I hope there's gonna be more of these stories that come out, guys that have helped themselves mentally, and say, man, the pills didn't help, but you know what, the ribeye and eggs did,
So cool. Dude, that's so cool. I love what you're doing. And yeah, I would be honored to check one of these out one day. And I notice it's so beneficial both ways. Like, it's beneficial if nothing else, if you didn't address diet, if you weren't eating carnivore, everybody's on standard American, to get a group of cops together and share experiences, share space, have some openness, a place to talk. Like, I think about your story and like fighting workman's comp just to have somebody to talk to not get a prescription. Like, that was a fight for you. Not a lot of people would be willing or even would know to put up that type of a fight. Then they go to the substances and the food and all the things you're mentioning they get addicted to and eventually die from. And it's terrible. So again, the diet aside, just doing that would be wonderful. But we all know what this diet does for your brain and what it does for trauma and what it does for providing a calmness in your life where things don't really bother you. You can let your past go a lot easier. Meditation and mindfulness works a lot better. Like, everything just gets better on this type of diet. For you to offer those two things together makes all of it so much more powerful.
Yeah, it's a great event. I mean, Friday night we have a bonfire, and then we have a movie for the kids. So you're keeping the kids busy. The adults are now getting around, having some beverages, and you just walk them. You're like, hey, I'm Tom from whatever. And you're like, I'm so-and-so. And you hit it off. And the next day we had the National Guard come out with the bounce houses for the kids, obstacle courses. We have a chicken barbecue. And then that night we got a bunch of retired cops that play Southern rock, and they come out and they play a concert, man. And it was just, I was on stage last year. I dropped an F-bomb and the sound guy was like, language, but I was just caught up in the moment. I was like, man, this is awesome. And and they're like, oh, should we come back? They're like, yeah, come back. So that's why we're going back again this year. But yeah, we got plans for Blue Ridge, Georgia area, and hopefully in Michigan, and hopefully get out west somewhere. Not LA. We ain't going to California, but we can maybe go to might go New Mexico, Arizona, maybe Utah.
Cool.
We'll see.
Nice, dude. That's great. That's so cool. I'd love that you're providing that help. And then with Keto 5.0, what is your main mission with that company?
That's like more a sports nutrition, personal training business, kind of just, hey, you see me out there at the gym or you need some help, You can hit me up. I do, take on clients, but in the end, most of the first responders I help, I don't charge them, man. I may say buy a t-shirt, donate to cops and campers or something, but for the most, I was given a gift that's changed my life and changed the
Yeah.
direction.
Yeah.
And I just feel bad trying to like, oh, I'm going to charge, I see you 1 hour a week and I'll charge you this and that. Let's go through your cabinet. Let me go through like it's a search warrant. You want me to be Keto 50 cop? All right, let's go. And that's why I want to help them. And that gives me more, I don't need the money for that. I mean, yeah, it'd be nice, not to make a bigger message and spread it more. But for right now, man, having people reach out to me and just say, thanks, dude, I was following you. And I go, you lost how much weight? And they're like 80 pounds. I go, why didn't you ever tell me? Like 2 years later, this guy's like on this awesome path that followed me and I never knew about it. I'm like, oh, I wish you would have dropped me a word or something.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I mean, this podcast, I pay out of pocket for this podcast. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of money. And you know what? You're right. Like I don't want to charge anybody for any of it. Like I want to get this message out because it does bring such joy. And if I had a day where I had no paying clients, but I got to do consultations with new people who had questions about this way of eating or about strength training or anything lifestyle wise, I would sleep so well at night. I would not
Right.
care. The money seems to just kind of take care of itself in some other way. And like, it's just such a joy to share this message. I love that you do it for that reason. What other things are you excited about for the future?
Well, you caught me off guard with that one. The future, we might be farming, we might be looking at some land and starting to do the whole, homestead thing. I mean, it's sad because once you get animals, you're kind of tied to the animals, but I just don't trust this government. I don't trust the policies. I just think we're going to need to have our own food source on some level and then barter it. I don't know what's going on. I mean, I don't want to go down conspiracy or truth talk, but it's crazy what I've been seeing since I retired. And I'm very, I like cause and effect. I can see black and white what's going on right here. I'm not a dummy. If anything, I sit back and I can now absorb everything because I'm thinking clearly. I'm not dumbed
Right.
down, right? And I'm like, this is an attack on our food system, blatant, right? So obviously we know it's for profit. The plant-based stuff has a lot more money to be made, and so yeah, I think we're gonna have to end up homesteading, becoming a farmer, Keto 50 farm. I don't know. Maybe I'll have my own campsite one day. We'll do a combination of keto therapy with the cops and campers on some level
Yeah.
or something like that.
That's awesome. Yeah, good for
But
you. No, and I agree. I don't want to get into conspiracy theories, but like it's a little scary out there. And there's too many people that are healing. And they're telling other people, they're telling their doctors. And I think it's starting to freak people out because the headlines against that message are getting like loonier and loonier. Like they make less and less sense all the time. The latest headlines, they're like keto is bad for your heart and heart attacks. Like you read that quote unquote study that's not even peer reviewed, and like this is not a study. This is a terrible piece of adjusting numbers to make it look like it looks bad for people who choose to eat fat and meat. And like and the headline is so misleading. It's getting worse. And so to have people like you out there spreading your message, literally traveling around and helping people, hanging out with your kids and homeschooling, I get a lot of hope from that. And I don't think you're wrong that we'll probably at some point have to have some kind of source of food because that might not be a viable option in the future. The way things are going, it doesn't look great. I would say it doesn't look great.
no, it's pretty terrifying when you really think about it. But yeah, they're not going to get me. Not without a fight, at least. I'm not going to eat their kibble. And one of my other things I'm thinking about, see if you like this. It's a pet nutrition company called Keto Fido, and
That's
we need to help the animals. They're killing our dogs and cats. They're making them diabetics just like us. They are carnivore animals. Why are we feeding them pea proteins and all this soy and crap? We're giving them the same metabolic disease that's happening in humans. So I joke around, I'm going to help your dog first because people care about their dogs more than themselves. So if I heal their dogs, maybe I can get them off the processed foods. I don't know.
Keto Fido, you heard it here first. That's fantastic. I love that. No, at my client's house the other day, he was telling me about a childhood dog that he had, bigger dog that died at 17. And I was like, Let me ask you a question. Did you ever have dog food growing up? You were like, nope, the dog would get dog steaks, whatever kind of meat it was. It was like throwaway stuff that my parents didn't want or scraps, and they would give it to him. I'm like, you would just never see a dog age that size, especially aged to 17 these days. It's like 9 or 10. And that's pretty much it because they're eating the same food that they shouldn't be eating.
Well, it's funny because when's the last time you saw a male dog with testicles, right? They're trying to do that to our
Yeah.
population.
Yeah. Yeah. It's scary. It's weird and it's scary. And again, it's just why I appreciate your message so much. Eric Reynolds, I really am grateful for you and I appreciate this message. We talked about some tough things and visited some dark areas, but I'm leaving this conversation with a lot of hope. So where would you like people to go to find you and connect with you and your work?
You can obviously all social media, it's anything Keto 50, FIVEO. And my website's keto50.com and copsandcampers.com. Now you can get a link to the movie. There's merchandise if you want to buy a Cops and Campers flag or something like that for those campers out there. And we plan on having more of these Cops and Campers get-togethers, and hopefully it's more of a movement to help us, especially after retirement. Let's
Yeah.
get you in the retirement gang of police work rather than just fading away.
Yeah. That's amazing. And what's this I hear about a Netflix series? You might be featured as a little kid with your
All right.
mom on a Netflix series.
So my mom was the super cop, right? She was a cop during the late 70s, early 80s, during the drug cartels when Cocaine Cowboys was going on in Miami. And she worked undercover, and she used to be listening because she was Cuban, so she could understand Spanish and translate and all this stuff. And they didn't know it because she looked like a regular old white girl. So they used her, and man, it was such an awesome time back then. But I was 10 years old. I had no idea as I'm going to football. I had police cars take me to football practice because my mom was handling homicides. But I didn't think nothing of it. But it was weird getting out of a police car in my football gear. Like, all right, see you later, officer. And he's some zone unit. You can't do that now, but back then you could. But anyways, she was in a couple books, and my stepfather was also part of those investigations. And they got approached by the writers of the Narcos series on Netflix, and they wanted to do like a Miami kind of Narcos type of thing, and they were going to call it Griselda. And it's named after Griselda Blanco, who was like the drug dealer kind of around Pablo Escobar days. Before him, she was ruthless, and she was head of the cartel, and she was just murdering people. Well, they now decided to do a show, and they want my mom as one of the characters on the show. So my mom's been working with the actors. They got hired on as advisors, which is crazy. My 70-year-old mom is now talking to Hollywood types, right? And they're just writing down all her stories and all the different players at that time. So yeah, the actress, I don't know if Juliana Martinez is playing her, and we could talk to her about the script and different things about my life growing up. So I guess they're going to have a little 10 to 14-year-old kid on the show portraying me, because they like to show the mom coming home from a hard day of work of solving homicides, which is a weird thing for your mom to be, oh, I'm coming home, son. Yeah. But they want to know what life is like for her. So that's why they have the kid aspect. And that's how the Narcos series kind of works. They like to show both sides. Like, how did Pablo become the bad guy? How did this guy become a jerk DEA agent or something? So they really dive into character development. So hopefully you're going to see an Eric on the show, and hopefully he's no little, all right, let's just say he's a carnivore eater, hopefully.
Dude, that's amazing. Don't forget us little people. When you go way big, like, don't forget us little people.
Man, all you guys are part of the process, man. I love you guys. I can't wait to get to more of these events, man. I just wish I could just show up like Buzz and Bruce and be like, hey, I'm here, but
So
I'm
great.
working on it. I'm working on trying to do path with my rig. So
you're making other events. You're creating things that are like that people can come to and share common experiences and talk about difficult things and improve health. It's just really wonderful. I love your work. Thank you so very much for everything you do. And thank you for coming on our show today. We really, really appreciate you.
All right. Thank you, Casey.
Take it easy, Eric. And this has been another episode of Boundless Body Radio. Just 1 second. Dude, that was phenomenal.
Sorry, dude. I didn't mean to lose. Man, you know what? I cry every time at a different part of the story.